everybody! I have such a special treat for you today. You know how, I'm assuming you've watched all my videos prior to this, and if you have, and if you haven't, you have heard me mention more than once my mentor, Linda, and how we've met and some of the times I have run to her in my emergencies, many of them, for her assistance and expert advice. And today, I would like you to meet my mentor, Linda. This is Linda Ragan. And she has been... Well, I'm going to not speak for her, but I'm going to let you meet her by asking her questions, and she is very knowledgeable about many things, obviously. But today she specifically wants to share with you her vast knowledge about working from the road, because that's what she does. So, hi Linda.
Hi Kim.
Thank you for coming and doing this interview and meeting my subscribers.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to meet your subscribers. So,
they're awesome.
Great. I'm excited. It's such a beautiful day out here in Quartzsite at the RTR and stuff, so this is great. What a great opportunity.
So how long have you been on the road for? I always think it's the wrong time because I think of when I first met you. So now how many years have you been on the road?
I'd say 6.5 years, but I went out on the road June of 2012. And so I've been roaming around, causing havoc since then on the road, yeah.
And you've had to work that entire time, or am I wrong? Did you get to take a little time off, or?
Well, I'm semi-retired, so I work part of the year. So I like to do seasonal jobs. And I like variety. I don't like working and going to the same places. I like, I want to explore new places and meet new people and do new things. So that's why I have become creative in seeking work on the road. But I choose to be more creative, and I like to make a better wage. I don't like to do volunteer work for my site, so to speak.
Bear with us. I'm a new YouTuber, so I don't have to be perfect. Hi!
Right next to the road.
Hey, we had to go where there was no wind. We're actually still at the RTR 2019 tail end, so there's still a handful of people here, and that's what you can see in the background here. So I know you guys can always find lots of stuff about Amazon, about the beet harvest, about camp hosting, and so I didn't want to reiterate those things. And that's what's so cool about Linda, is she has gone out and she's got a whole new group of types of jobs. So before you get specific, how many different states have you worked in?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I would say, I don't know for sure. So I'll just lie. 6 or 7.
I know it's been a lot since I've known you.
It's been mainly, it's been in the West. And the first job was in Wyoming, not Wyoming, South Dakota,
okay.
Kansas, Texas, Idaho.
Huh? You're just in Colorado, right?
Oh, Colorado, thanks. I have short-term memory loss. Yeah.
So at least 5.
Yeah, at least 5. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I did lie.
What is your favorite of all of the jobs that you've had on the road?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably working for a whitewater rafting company as a shuttle driver. And to give you a little bit of background, I have been a nurse, I've been a truck driver, I've been a juvenile detention officer. And I find that, and I have a CDL because I've driven truck for a lot, and I also have a passenger endorsement. So, what?
Passenger endorsement.
You have to have a passenger endorsement if you haul a certain amount of people in a vehicle. I forget what it is, 7 or 9 people or whatever. But I've driven coach buses, tour buses out of San Antonio, Texas, with 53 people on a bus.
Could people out there get jobs like that if they didn't have this special certification, or do they need to have that?
Well, they could get jobs if they're hauling little shuttles.
Okay.
With not very many people, 7 or under people or something. I'm not sure.
Good
You
to
can
make a
look
note of.
into that.
Okay.
But yeah, you can get, in tourism areas and stuff. Some don't require a CDL, and the reason I like driving jobs is they pay better than most of your temporary jobs or your seasonal jobs. So. That's why I kind of went back to driving. I kind of retired from driving for several years. I got burnt out. But I just do it for on a temporary basis every year. And so that's my take. But a lot of the suggestions and advice I give you, just apply it to your own particular job skills. Because a lot of people, like she said, everybody that talks about work camping talks about Amazon, the beet harvest, and work camping in RV parks or for national forests and stuff. I like to make money and have my site provided.
So can we go back to Whitewater, and can you tell me why that was your favorite one, working for the rafting company?
Because, although I had to work, there was work involved. I got to work in a beautiful environment. A lot of times I was sitting by the river, just staring at the river, waiting for my rafts to come down so I could pick them up. Because what I did is I drove old school buses that they converted into their shuttle vehicles. And I drove them to the drop-off sites where we drop people off. And then I would drive and pick them up when they were done with their raft trips, and then take them back to the parking lot where I picked them up.
And now, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but you didn't go out and find that job on some classified list. You actually proactively found that job. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
This is what she does.
I'm not even sure how I thought. Where I found that, I probably looked under because I wanted to go to Colorado.
So that's a key thing. So don't think that you have to go where the classified ads or these listings tell you. If there's a state or an area you'd like to go to, okay, so pick that first, and then.
Yeah, and then I look at Craigslist. I go to Indeed.com, Monster.com. When I worked, I did a volunteer job in Colorado. That was the first job I had in Colorado, was working for a fish hatchery. And normally they hire couples. They only hire couples. They had 2 couples that they would have working there that worked the visitor center at the fish hatchery. They would show a video, and they had brochures, and then they would hand people a bucket of fish food, and you go feed the fish in the fish ponds. And all these fish would jump and go crazy when you threw the pellets out there. And it was a lot of fun and a beautiful area. So I was kind of, not knowing what to do. And so I looked under the state of Colorado, and they said, yeah, state of Colorado hires volunteers. But they gave me, and it's expensive to stay in Colorado in the summertime. It's very expensive. And I really didn't want to pay, like $800 a month for an RV site to stay in Colorado. So I worked for them 5 days on and 5 days off, and it wasn't that hard to work. But I didn't get paid, but I got a nice site. I worked with really nice people, and they gave us, you know, a couple of barbecues during the season for a gratitude thing. And it was a good gig. For being a free gig, they didn't work me that hard, and that's kind of what I'm into, is not working too hard. And then my first gig was in South Dakota, and I paid for a minimum, like I paid like $6 a night for my site, and it was full hookup, and I worked part-time in the RV park, and then I worked part-time on a laser show at night, and that was fun and easy.
Yeah.
I like.
How do you remember how you found that job?
Yeah, I had an old issue of Work Camper magazine that I got at a RV and women's conference out of Gillette, Wyoming, and I just happened to be in the area, and I thought, yeah, this is a good place to get a job, and it's a big tourism area. It was Crazy Horse, Mount Rushmore's by. The Sturgis motorcycle rally was there in August. So there's a lot of jobs around there in the summer. So if you're interested in you know, a seasonal summer job, and a lot of those will go, some of them will go from like the end of April to into October. So it gives you several months, and then some of them are shorter. It's just you know, it's just Google.
So I derailed you. You started to say that that job at the fish hatchery was really meant for couples, but somehow you pulled off getting a job that had otherwise been designated for a couple. How did you do that?
That's really a good point, because you know, a lot of these jobs advertise for couples, and this job, actually a couple had worked in my position for, I don't know, I think 2 or 3 or 4 years. They came back every year. That year they had started working there, and this other couple, they came every year too. They kind of had it tied up. And it was one of the best fish hatcheries to work for in the state because of its situation and beauty. And it was at the base of a 14,000 foot mountain, and you had all these beautiful ponds around there, and it was really cool. And so, you know, I just called the volunteer coordinator, and I says, yeah, I see you have a position open for this fish hatchery there. And I don't think I'd even been in Colorado before, you know, I'm just stumbling around. And so she says, oh yeah, we've been looking for someone to replace this couple that they got sick or had family emergency issues or something. So they had to boogie out, you know, on them, and they'd been looking for like 2 or 3 weeks for a replacement couple.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't find anybody. And so I says, well, you know, I would really like to work at that park. She says, well, they really need someone to work there. And so she told me what the hours are, and I go, yeah, that sounds real doable.
Okay, I gotta go here. What's the worst job you've had on the road?
Oh, there's no argument. Amazon.
And I don't want to stay on it too long because I want to get to the good stuff, but could you just give us a little Reader's Digest version of why that was your least favorite?
Yeah, well, it was in a 1 million square foot warehouse. You had to walk to the break room on your break time. So by the time you got to the break room, had your break, and then had to start back to your workstation, you didn't have a very long break, and you're on your feet 10 hours a day with, 10-minute, 15-minute breaks, and then a half an hour lunch. So I don't like to be on my feet that long.
Yeah.
I'm getting to be an old geezer, and that's on cement. And you work hard. And the pay wasn't that good then. They have raised the pay, I think, to $15 an hour. So you have to be in good shape. You have to be willing to, they track your every move. You know, when you go to the bathroom, you have a scanner. And
Oh my God.
so they
seriously?
know when you're away, every second you're away from your workstation. I don't like being micromanaged. So,
But let me ask you this. The one thing I have heard everybody likes about Amazon is that they make really good friends that kind of expands their work camping resources. Did you find that for yourself?
I did.
That's the only
Yeah.
reason I've ever heard to do it. But go ahead, tell me.
I did. I
Tell
made
us.
friends that I'm still, this is 6.5 years ago, that I'm still Facebook friends, and I hook up with them on the road every once in a while. So that's really true, which is weird, but true.
I think you bond over your mutual misery. Everybody's probably like, oh, I went to the bathroom in 3 minutes flat or whatever.
I don't know why that's true, but yeah, I guess misery loves company. And,
Right.
but,
It's like you've been through war together or something.
I would say, yeah. That in a tour bus company I work for in Texas, that was pretty hideous too, and I worked for them only like a couple of months, and that was plumb insane. And so that was my second unfavorite job. But and then I also worked for oil field subcontractor, hauling oil field workers in vans.
So that's different than those gate positions we hear about, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what was this? But kind of through the same, you're in the same family of
Well,
working, or-
you go to the oil field
Okay.
about what you do,
Okay.
and you're dealing with oil field workers, and so we would pick them up from their camp or from their hotel, take them to the oil field, drop them off, and they'd work like a 12-hour shift, and then we would pick them up, and
Is that something that they could do without that special certificate? That one
no,
would require.
They would
okay.
need a passenger endorsement.
Thank you, passenger endorsement.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's no big thing to get on your.
Oh,
on your
okay.
license.
So
No big thing.
expensive or not expensive?
No.
Okay, so that might be an investment worth making to get these higher paying seasonal jobs. Just something to think about. So, Linda, I know that you've put on many working from the road workshops. So I've had fun asking you questions, but I don't want to steer you away from what are some of the basic points that you cover in those that we could share here.
Okay, be creative. You know, according to your job skills. Just, you know, if there's something that you feel you're good at, but you never really worked the job, or even volunteer in that field for a while, and see if that's an area you want to go into. Or when you seek a job, you may not even think it exists, but, you know, still look for a job in that department, you know, or that area. And then negotiate. And I always ask this, unless it's, you know, obvious, but do you have a place I can park my RV? Because, and I have a cat. And so it has to be compatible with having a cat while I'm at work for 12 hours. Because
That's good for those of you that have pets, because you got to consider that in negotiating where you're going to be and how long they're going to be in your rig.
Yeah, that's a big consideration. I mean, I could have taken a lot of jobs that paid a lot better than the jobs that I have worked, but I have the cat I got to consider. So anyway, so I have to consider that my cat is going to stay cool enough or warm enough, and that is my priority. And I let my employers know up front what my requirements and needs are that way. So I ask them if they have a place I can park that has shade and you know, and ventilation type thing. And so I've really lucked out. You know, a lot of it's a matter of luck, but it's also a matter of asking and looking and seeking. And I had farmers up in Idaho said, yeah, they had me park in their combine shed, but I had an electrical hookup. It wasn't a 30 amp or anything, but it was electrical hookup. It provided shade. It was cool enough for the warmer days in September, and it worked out great. And they were wonderful to work for.
Sorry.
And
we'll edit that out.
This last year, I worked for a farmer in Colorado, hauling corn silage and sugar beets, and he actually had a 30 amp hookup for me. And he'd never had an RVer ever work for him, but I says, hey, do you happen to have a place I could park my RV? And it was really lucky he had a 30 amp, because actually, even though it was like the third week of September or something, it was 95 degrees every day of the week. And without that 30 amp, well, there were times when I couldn't use that 30 amp because we were driving truck harvest 30 miles away. So I just drove my RV to the area we were harvesting at the time and ran my generator, ran the AC.
Right.
So where there's a will, there's a way.
I think that's why I think you are differentiated from the other people who do the work camping jobs, is that you're so proactive about it. Generally people will, and there's nothing wrong with it, I'm not knocking it, but they'll go to the place of resources and pick from the menu. Whereas you've got a completely different take on it, which is, where do I want to be? And then you go and it's, what do I want to do? And you might, I love that you threw out Craigslist and Indeed. Who thinks of those things? That they put, I heard that Craigslist has something called gigs. And yeah. And then, I know you've actually literally not gone to the phone book, but Googled and found, when the whitewater rafting, she just decided and called rafting places, or, and so I think that's really good takeaway for everybody is, don't think you're just limited to what's being offered. Go create what you want.
Yeah, get in your mind. I got to sit by a beautiful river, watching the river go by as these rafts waved at the rafters. But I had to work. There was some hard work involved, and in working for the for the van company for the oil fields wasn't any fun, because you were on call. You had to work long hours. It was hard. And you were going to kind of spooky places out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, in the middle of the night. So, but it didn't pay too bad. It paid about $12 an hour, and I worked a lot of hours, so I was able to make, some money. And then there was a reasonable RV park just a half a mile away. So things just kind of have really worked out good for me. Yeah, even if you only have even if you aren't highly skilled, even motels, if there's a lot of places, a lot of motels during tourist season that are desperate for workers, and they need someone to clean the rooms. Ask them if you can park in their parking lot. They all have parking lots, so ask them if that can be part of the deal, and if they charge you, don't let them charge you very much. Try to negotiate for free. But don't be afraid to negotiate terms of your employment. Try to get everything out of them you can.
Can't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, that last job I had paid really well, and I had a free RV site. And all the RV parks around there were $800 a month. So I couldn't have afforded, even though that I was paid well, I couldn't have afforded to stay there and paid for that kind of,
Now I see you've got a paper in your hand. What's that?
Well, this is a list of references of different things, go-to sites, websites and stuff. And I am more than glad to email it to you if you send me your email. And you'll find the email at the bottom of the screen.
I'll put it down here for you.
At
Linda, thank you so much for coming over and sharing your wisdom with everyone. And I invite all of you, you know, she's my mentor, but I'll share her if it helps you get a job on the road and helps you get out here. And, you know, this is a great life, and anything we can do to help support you to have as much fun out here as we are, we're all for that. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it, and good luck to all of you. And just keep on trucking. As we say.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on. Bye.